It's supposed to be like an interview, so.
Okay. All right. I am your mother.
Name. Oh, give her hand. Stop.
I am Belia Ramirez Snow.
Okay.
Okay. And I have 3 children, and you're the middle one. And I am no longer married to your
Oh
father.
my God, Clover.
We've been divorced since shortly after, since around 95, I believe it was. And then I had Daniel in 97, my youngest child. And I met your dad while I was in the Air Force. Probably never would have hooked up with somebody from Massachusetts otherwise. Because I'm from Oklahoma, born and bred, and I am Native American on my mom's side, and there's supposed to be a little French and Irish in there on my grandfather's side, my maternal grandfather. And on my dad's side, he is first generation Mexican American. His mother came over from Mexico, and she was born in Mexico. And I don't know how many of his brothers and sisters were born in Mexico before they came over here, but he was born here in the States. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting whenever I found out. And they grew up here also. My mom was in Calumet. Her parents worked at a boarding school out at Concho, the Indian Reservation north of El Reno. And it's just, I was not brought up traditional as a lot of Native Americans will say they're traditional, and I was not. I was brought up in the public schools, and not knowing a whole lot of the traditions. My grandmother used to make me an Indian dress whenever I was little, and we would go to powwows, but I never learned the language, and so wasn't a very good dancer. I kept going whenever the beat would stop. And
that's where we get it from.
And anyway,
how about the Mexican culture? Was that a huge part of your upbringing, like speaking Spanish or anything like that?
Very little. I had an aunt that lives in Kansas, and whenever she would come to visit, she would teach us little things like counting the days of the week, and I don't remember if there was anything else. But my dad did not speak Spanish until my sister married a Mexican, and he was from Mexico, and he definitely spoke Spanish, and so Dad spoke with him then, and so it was kind of frustrating because, you know, it would have made it so much easier in school to know Spanish already. But anyway, yeah, I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and I have 2 sisters and 2 brothers, and we all live here in El Reno with Mom and Dad. The time that I spent away from here was in whenever I was in the Air Force. I went down to Texas for basic training, and then up to tech school. I was in Mississippi shortly after the bad hurricane, and I can't even remember what the name of that hurricane was, but they were still rebuilding. And then I got married to Pete, and then I went out to Georgia. We went out to Georgia. We were stationed there at the 5th Mob. So we were a mobility readiness unit in the Air Force.
Nice.
And so, anyway, that was pretty interesting. My race did not have a whole lot to do with my religious upbringing. Whenever I was little, my parents were visited by people from the Bible Baptist Church, and they said, we'll pick up your kids every Sunday morning with the bus and take them to Sunday school, and then they can go to church with us, and then we will bring them home. And so my mom and dad were all for that.
So was that Catholic?
That was Baptist.
Baptist, okay.
Yes.
And then when did you start practicing Catholicism?
I did that whenever I got married to your dad.
Okay.
And he was already Catholic. He had not been confirmed, but he was, he had definitely been brought up in the Catholic faith.
Okay.
And so we decided to go ahead and go the rest of the way with it. I was baptized, confirmed, and received my first communion all on the same day. And he did his confirmation and that was after we attended some classes and to learn the Catholic way.
Right.
And then we got married in the church. It's called the convalidation. And then we had you. Patrick, your older brother, was almost, I can't remember how old he was. He was just a few months old. But anyway, we we did that, and I followed it a little while after I left. I followed the faith even after we got divorced. It was hard to, because Pete wasn't there with me, but I believed, the Catholic way, and I still have my faith in God and everything, but it was just a little bit harder to go because I felt like I had been abandoned.
Right.
But I stayed out in Georgia for a while after we divorced, and I worked with the Department of Labor after I left the military. And then after Daniel was about a year old, in 98, we moved back to El Reno so that we could be closer to family. So it's been a pretty interesting ride. I'm still a member of the Catholic Church, and I will be attending Mass once they say that it's okay after the COVID scare.
Nice.
So anyway, it's been a very interesting journey. There have been a lot of classes. I've taught. Well, no, I wouldn't say taught. I've led some small groups with
Sacred Heart
Bible study, and yes.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So you were talking about how Grandma raised you as like non-traditional Native American. Do you wish that she would have raised you traditional, and kind of like, do you feel like that wasn't, like, you weren't able to embrace as much of your culture as like, other traditional Native Americans, like how they were raised, or were you okay with it?
I was okay with it. I didn't feel like I was prejudiced against, I didn't feel like anybody was treated me with prejudice growing up. I was just oblivious to it, I guess.
Yeah.
If they did, I didn't recognize it.
It didn't affect like your upbringing or anything.
I
too
don't
much?
think it did. No.
Okay. Cool.
No, we were able to take advantage of some of the benefits, and like the extra money and things they helped to pay for. They helped to pay for like gym shoes and yearbooks and class rings, and there was money, a little extra money for that. But we weren't totally dependent on that because my mother had a good job. My dad was, self-employed as a barber, and he did really well with that. So it was money wasn't an issue for us, and I feel like I learned more the value of money. We weren't rich by any means, but we were definitely not poor.
Right.
And we did not have to lean on the government or the Indian tribe for assistance.
Right.
And I see, it's unfortunate, but I see a lot of that with the people that were raised traditionally. I'm not saying all of them are that way, but unfortunately, some of the Indians that have only had the Indian, lived in the Indian society, I feel like they've limited themselves.
Right.
I don't know. That's just my opinion. I have nothing against them. I really envy their knowledge and I love to listen to their stories about the old people, and I love reading on the history, and it's awful sometimes, like the Sand Run Massacre, and it's just, you know, it can be quite tragic, but
just how
it
like
is
suppressed,
part of our history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just how like suppressed they were as people. Like that definitely, I can definitely see how that can, I don't know, make them kind of resent and like just kind of fall, you know, easy to fall in society.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're done.
Yay!
We did it, Mom! Woohoo! See, that wasn't that bad. My last interview was with